Hello and welcome back to another episode of this series. In this episode, we will initiate the video meeting by sending meeting invitation from one user to another user using Firebase Cloud Messaging. So let's get started with the tutorial. To send meeting invitation, we are going to use remote messages. So first of all, let's understand how we can send remote messages using Firebase Cloud Messaging. So here is the example of an API which we are going to use for sending meeting invitations. Here, first one is our API URL which we are going to use for network call. Second one is headers for our API request, and there are two headers. First one is authorization, in which we will write prefix key equal to and then our server key, which we can get from Firebase console. And second one is content type, which is application JSON. And this is the body of our API request, which is a JSON object. Inside this JSON object, there is another JSON object called data, in which we can send custom data with remote messages. Here we are sending type, meeting type, first name, last name, and email. And last, there is a simple array called registration IDs, in which we will pass the token of receiver. Here we can pass multiple tokens as well to send single remote message to multiple users. Now let's implement this API in our project to send meeting invitation. First of all, let's open outgoing invitation activity. Inside this activity, define preference manager and inviter token, or we can say token of sender. Now initialize both of these variables in one create method. For inviter token, we'll use firebase instance id.getInstance.getInstance id, and we set onComplete listener on it. Inside this onComplete method, first check task is successful and result is not null. And then set inviter token from result. We can replace this listener with lambda. Now open constants.java file. Here we'll define two constants for headers of our API request. First one is authorization and second one is content type. Here make sure you write authorization and content type like this, or else it will not work out. Now open Firebase console and select our project. Click on this settings icon and select project settings. Now click on this cloud messaging tab. Here is the server key which we will require in headers of our API request. Now click on this copy icon to copy it. Now go to Android Studio, and inside this constants class, let's create one method get remote message headers with return type hasmap. Inside this method, create one hasmap for headers. Now let's put both of headers inside this hasmap. First one is authorization, and for key we will use remote message authorization constant which we have defined above. And for value we'll write prefix key equal to and paste our server key which we have copied from Firebase console. And second header is content type, and value of this header is application JSON. In last, return the edgemap object. Now let's define some other constants which we will use while sending custom data with remote message. Here we are using constants, that is because most of things are in key value pairs. To avoid mistakes while writing keys, we just use these constants. Again, make sure you write data and registration IDs like this. Inside this outgoing invitation activity, let's make one method for sending remote message. This method will take two arguments. First one is remote message body and second one is type. Inside this method, let's make a network call using retrofit. So write API client.getClient.create API service.class and we'll call send remote message method from API service class. This send remote message method will take two arguments. First one is header and second one is remote body. So let's pass constant.get remote message headers and remote body. And finally, to handle the response of this API, let's enqueue this API and add a callback which will give us two callbacks. First one is on response and second one is on failure. To remove these warnings from parameters, add non-null annotation to all parameters. Inside this onResponse callback, let's check response is successful or not. If response is not successful, then we display a toast and finish this outgoing invitation activity. And if response is successful, then we check for current type. If type equals constants.remote-message-invitation, then we display a toast like invitation sent successful. Same way, inside this onFailure callback, we display a toast with failure message and finish this current activity. Send remote message method is now ready. Now create one more method, initiate meeting, which will take two arguments. First one is meeting type and second one is receiver token. Let's wrap this method with try catch block and complete the catch block first. Here we will display a toast with exception message and finish this activity. Inside this try block, let's create a JSON array for tokens and put the receiver token inside this tokens array. Now let's create a JSON object for body of our API request, which will be the outer JSON object. Now create one more JSON object for data, which we will put inside body JSON object. With this data JSON object, we can pass our custom data with remote message. So let's put data inside. First thing we are passing is a remote message type, which is a remote message invitation. Second item is remote message meeting type and will pass value of argument meeting type. Let's put user details from preferences like first name, last name and email as well. Suppose this meeting invitation is received by the receiver. When he accepts or rejects the invitation, we need to send a related response back to the sender or inviter. For that, we need a token of inviter. So let's pass it with data as well. Now let's put data JSON object inside the body JSON object with key remote message data. And also put JSON array of tokens inside this body JSON object with key constants.remote message registration IDs. So we prepared a body for our API request just like this. And finally we will call this method send remote message, and as a first argument we will pass body.toString and the second argument is constant.remote message invitation. This initiate meeting method is now complete. We will call this initiate meeting method from onCreate method. If meeting type is not null and user is not null, we'll call initiate meeting. As a first argument, we'll pass meeting type and we can get receiver token from user object. Everything is done inside this outgoing invitation activity. So let's run our application. Now click on this video meeting icon. And we got message invitation sent successfully. So everything is working absolutely fine. Now let's implement the logic to display incoming invitation to the receiver. Open messaging service from Firebase package. When we call API for sending meeting invitation, we will get remote message inside this onMessageReceived method. First of all, let's get type of the remote message. We can get data from remote message like this, remote message.getData.get, and we pass key for related data. If type is not null, then we check if type equals constants.remote message invitation, then we will start incoming invitation activity using an intent. With this intent, we will pass data from remote message. First of all, we will put meeting type from remote message. And then we will pass first name, last name and email. Since we are starting an activity from non-activity context, we need to add one flag to intent, which is intent.flagActivity new task. And finally start incoming invitation activity with this intent. And our onMessageReceived method is now ready. Now let's run our application in both emulators. Now let's click on this video meeting icon. And we got incoming meeting invitation screen in real time. Now let's close this application and try again. And again we got incoming meeting invitation screen in real time. Now let's try to send meeting invitation from this device. And we got incoming meeting invitation screen in this device also. Here let me clear one thing. Firebase messaging service will only get called if the app is in the foreground or in the background. Once the app is completely killed, we will not receive any meeting invitation in real time. We might get meeting invitation after some time in case Firebase service restarts. Sometimes there is nothing we can do. Device manufacturers optimize their OS in a way that makes it impossible to receive remote messages in the backgrounded or killed applications. But surely we will look into this problem later. Now let's display inviters detail on the incoming meeting invitation screen. Open incoming invitation activity. So like outgoing meeting invitation screen, we need to display user details and meeting type in this screen also. First of all, let's define an image view for meeting type. Now get meeting type from intent like get intent.getString extra and will pass constants.remote message meeting type. Here we are getting data from this intent which we have sent from onMessageReceived method of messaging service. If meeting type is not null and meeting type equals video, then we will set video icon to the image view. Now define text views for first char, username and email. Get first name from intent. If first name is not null, then we will set first character to the user icon text view. Now let's set username and email. Now everything is done, let's run our application. Now let's send meeting invitation to XYZ user. And done, we can see incoming meeting invitation from ABC user. Now let's send meeting invitation to ABC user. And here we can see incoming meeting invitation from XYZ user with video meeting icon. So this is for today's video. In next episode we will implement the facility to accept, reject and cancel the meeting invitation. See you in the next episode.